What is going on, kid family? Welcome back to the channel. On today's video, it's a long video. A lot of people were waiting for it. We never got it concluded, but we're going to talk about Rustoleum paint jobs and all the mixing ratios I've done using Rustoleum and using the Harbor Freight spray gun, my experiences with it, which mixing ratios I recommend. So if you are interested in this video, just make sure you watch it till the end. Alright, you guys are probably watching because you're interested in learning about Rustoleum, or you probably got a project going on where you want to paint something that's old and crappy and just want to use Rustoleum instead of professional automotive paint, and that's perfectly fine. And that's exactly what we were doing. We were experimenting with. It's budget friendly, it's cheap. You can get a Harbor Freight's gun like this and paint for under 50 bucks and be all set. So right over here, we were using a 1-to-1 mixing ratio, 50-50. Let's go ahead and do that third coat. Clearly, I don't know if you guys can see, there are sanding marks still in here. So let's lay down that third coat real thick. Right over here, we were using a 3-to-1 mixing ratio. Both of these were diluted with mineral spirits, odorless mineral spirits. That looks pretty good. Definitely covering a lot more of the scratches compared to that 50-50 mixture. We also painted a front lip off my buddy's 335 BMW, which was a monster. It ate GTRs for breakfast. Ended up doing a 10-second pass in the quarter mile. That lip we actually painted with Rustoleum. It was the gloss black, and we used a 2-to-1 mixing ratio. We did use a 1-to-1 first, but I'll get back to that. We ended up finishing that lip with a 2-to-1. So essentially, I did a 1-to-1, I did a 2-to-1, I did a 3-to-1 mixing ratio, and anything past that, if you're using 4-to-1, you're gonna have a very hard time laying down this paint through the gun and spitting it out onto the surface. So let's get started with 1-to-1 and my personal experience with it. 1-to-1 mixing ratio is gonna have the paint flow out the nicest. It is gonna, all those little dot specks are all gonna combine and form one piece of paint, and it's gonna look like a mirror. The only problem I've had and I've experienced with 1-to-1 mixing ratio is the paint is very thin and it's gonna run. If you don't add hardener to the mix, or something like Japan dryer that's going to help speed up the drying time, you guys are going to have a lot of runs. If you're spraying a flat piece of panel like this, that might be okay. You might get away with it, but again, runs are part of the game with the 1-to-1 mixing ratio, especially without the Japan dryer or a hardener. So be aware of that. All right, lads, second paint job, nothing's going wrong, eh? Also, because you're using so much paint thinner to go along with the paint, again, it's a 50-50 mixing ratio, while painting, I did notice if you're doing multiple coats, you are going to experience a lot of solvent pop. And solvent pop is when the first gases from the first layer are trying to escape, and then you put another coat on it. So we already know Rustoleum dry times takes forever. You should probably be doing a coat every 30 to 45 minutes, if not longer. But that just, one, it enables all this trash to get in there. But two is, like I said, solvent pop was highly noticed. And this panel right here, we probably did about 4 coats of paint. And yeah, the third or fourth coat we did, it was just solvent pop everywhere. Also, comparing the 1:1 to the 3:1, that color is not as vivid. I don't know if it's because it was diluted so much again with the solvent. It's yellow, this is yellow, but if you really put a fine eye to it, this is lacking that vividness compared to the 3:1. I think the 1:1 again is laid down smoother. Like off the gun finish, this would be perfect. You don't gotta buff anything. But again, if you can get that clarity and the vividness of the color, that would be ideal. But I'm lacking that vivid color on this panel. Now, the 3:1 right here laid down a lot easier. You can lay down that paint without worrying about a run. It just sticks better. Now, with the 3:1, you will notice more orange peel. If you're not laying a wet coat, you are gonna see a lot of orange peel. I think it took me the 3rd coat right here on this one where I went heavy. I made sure I laid down a nice wet coat. I'm just gonna go slower over the last few passes. Alright, that's a wrap. Glossy surface, nice wet surface. And if you want to spray paint, look. You see that? That's wet. So when I told you before, when it's tacky, that's when you want to spray. When it's coming off on your finger, don't spray it. So let's give it this about 30-40 minutes, and then I'll come back and show you the final results once it's dried. That's when everything started to flow in and flow out really nicely, accumulating a good finish. Now this one was probably about 4 coats as well, and I did notice less solvent pop again because I'm using less solvent compared to the 1:1 mixing ratio, which again is better. It's going to leave a better finish overall without bubbles, without any imperfections in the paint. Again, 3:1, very easy to lay down, very easy to mix. After the 3rd coat, it laid down pretty dang good. A lot less chances of runs. I mean, I could probably really stay in one place for a couple seconds without noticing a run. So that's the benefit. A new painter that's just going to try to paint something, this is going to be much more satisfactory and much less complicated if you're trying to perfect it with a 1:1 mixing ratio. Now, another thing I've noticed is the clarity, the depth clarity. The yellow looks a lot more vivid on this panel on the 3:1 compared to the 1:1. It just kind of seems a little bit hazy on this side, where here the yellow color really pops. Again, because you're using less solvent, there's more paint going on, and overall you get less solvent pop and a better color. But the drawback of the 3:1 is, unfortunately, some orange peel. And even though we have some orange peel here compared to the 1-to-1, it's not bad. I mean, a manufacturer of a vehicle, they all have some orange peel, and I actually would compare this to have like a original manufacturer kind of clear coat, and it does retain some orange peel, but nothing crazy. I sprayed 4-to-1 probably when I first started spray painting Rustoleum, and that was just spitting out chunks and chunks of paint. Looking slick. So 4-to-1, 5-to-1, forget about it. It's not going to lay down. You're going to have a ton of orange peel, but the 3-to-1 is not bad, guys. I got to say, it's not bad. Overall, with the ease of use, the outcome, the finish, the clear coat, the flow out, this is probably the best choice for a newer painter. I think you guys are going to get good results overall with whatever you're doing. Worst case scenario, if you do not like the clarity of it, you can just use, you know, a 2000, 3000, some compound, some polish, and buff it out. Again, that's up to you. Now, going back and talking about the 2-to-1 mixing ratio that I used on that front lip. First, we ran a 1-to-1 mixing ratio, and we painted that bumper twice with 1-to-1 mixing ratios, and both times we had adhesion problems to the bumper, and then we had hella runs in the bumper.
No, not good, not good. Look at it. It's not even adhering itself. Ay, ay, ay. I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna have to let this fully dry, and we're gonna have to sand this down and start over.
Look at this butt ass screwing up the paint job. Just stop walking, bro. And why? Again, you might have adhesion problems because it's just so much solvent going on that panel, and that paint has nowhere to stick. The second problem is it's so thin, it lays down like glass, but if you want a good coverage and you're spraying it down and you're leaving a wet coat, it's just gonna run, and that's the problem we had. Again, that lip had curves in it, and it's not ideal for 1-to-1 mixing ratio. Again, I highly recommend not using 1-to-1 if you have curves in your system, curves in the area you're painting. It's just going to be very, very tricky. But hey, if you guys want to be if you guys want to try it out, if you guys want a challenge, go ahead, spray that 1-to-1. Let me know how it goes for you guys. But then the second or the third time, actually, when I spray painted that bumper, I laid down a 2-to-1 mixing ratio, and I think the 2-to-1 was the best of both worlds right here. because the 2-to-1 had better clarity than the 3-to-1. It had pretty good flow out compared to the 3-to-1, and it was just barely starting to run after, you know, quite a good heavy coat. So overall, to sum everything up, guys, if you are new, you're starting off, you want good results without sanding multiple times or repainting multiple times, stick with a 3-to-1. It was pretty dang good overall. I'm happy with it. If you want to be a little challenged and you want a little smoother finish, stick with a 2-to-1 mixing ratio. If you really want to be a cowboy and try to perfect things, try to challenge yourself, stick with the 1-to-1. Again, that is my experience with Harbor Freight spray gun painting, Rustoleum paint jobs. And you know, this is all done with mineral spirits. Now I could do all these experiments as well with acetone, which dries faster and might be a better option. I've seen people use both. Everything I have done here was with mineral spirits. I may paint later in the future using acetone, but in general I believe it's just going to be the same concept. You might be able to spray a 1-to-1 better with acetone as it dries faster. You might have less solvent pop, but that is again up in the air. I haven't seen nobody experiment like this on YouTube, so I'm just letting you guys know what I did, my personal experience, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel for more painting videos and automotive content. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but the world is pretty cold. You might need a sweater too. I'ma put a ride on ya. Kid from California, trying to make it in life. In school they never taught ya. Dreams of my own, I've been working from home. I can do it on my own, but sometimes it gets cold.